Former Chiefs wide receiver Tyreke Hill has been traded to the Miami Dolphins for a package of 5 draft picks, including the 29th and 50th pick in this year's draft. Wow. I mean, it's another absolutely blockbuster deal in a free agency period for the NFL that has been just absolutely just chock full of them. And this is not even including the MLB free agency, which, of course, we saw a lot of crazy moves going on there as well. So, the Dolphins immediately made Tyreke Hill the highest paid wide receiver of all time. So Davante Adams... he had that distinction of highest paid wide receiver of all time for about a week, so I do feel a little bit bad for him. But I mentioned, obviously, just an NFL free agency just chock full of big blockbuster moves, but this one feels a little bit different than the other ones to me. Both Tyreke Hill and Davante Adams, they have made their claims to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, if not of all time. But both for completely different reasons. Both are vastly different in terms of their skill sets. Whereas Tyreke Hill is just a pure speedster, an absolute burner, a deep threat who has developed enough of a route running game and enough of a technical game and has developed his hands enough to basically be just that pure deep threat. Although obviously, he has developed over the last couple of years an intermediate and short route game, at least enough in the Chiefs offense with all the spacing that they're able to get to be effective in that area. But essentially, he is basically at heart a pure deep threat. So unlike Tyreke Hill, who again is that pure speedster, Davante Adams' skill set is much, much different. Davante Adams has always lacked that top-end speed. He didn't really run he didn't really run very well at the combine back when he got drafted. He's never really been that just pure deep threat that's going to get open deep. But what he does have is he has perfected his route running technique. He has absolutely perfected his ability to catch with his hands. And just basically his catch radius is insane. His best ability, I think, has been reliability. He's been that guy over the last 4 years that's going to stay healthy for the most part. He's also going to be able to get you 7 to 10 catches a game, if not more. And he's just going to get open, on the vast majority of his routes. He's just been very, very reliable over the last few years. So both are unique, and both in many ways are very, very worth what is being paid to them in terms of the money. So, why am I comparing the two? Other than the obvious, they both are, they both got traded this offseason. They're both Pro Bowlers. They're both two of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And, they're both, the two highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. Those are the obvious reasons why I'm comparing them. But why else am I comparing the two? The reason is simple. I believe that the Dolphins will regret this trade, whereas the Raiders will not regret their trade for the big-time wide receivers. And my reasoning is going to be harsh. So if you are a Dolphins fan and you are listening to this, I would strongly urge you to try and come into this a little calm, because you're probably not going to like what I have to say. Although I will say this, I have heard some Dolphins fans that actually agree with me on the reasoning why, Tyreke Hill might not work out. So we will see how you feel. But if there are any Dolphins fans watching, this is your quote-unquote trigger warning here. What I'm not saying is Tyreke Hill isn't worth the money. He is worth the money, but here is the problem. He is worth the money right now. He's 28 years old, which means he's right in the middle of his prime. So certainly, if you were going to pay Tyreke Hill $30 million or more a year, this is the time to do it. But the problem is he's going to age. It only makes sense that when you age, your speed declines. That is just simply how the human body works. We have seen some speedsters in the past, such as Bob Hayes and Darrell Green, even Deion Sanders, stay in the NFL despite, aging and stay in the NFL into their early and mid, even late 30s at times. despite being pure speedsters. But the difference is that they were defensive backs. So much of the defensive back game is not about speed. It's about technique. And it's about understanding of what's happening in front of you and being in the right position. Wide receiver, obviously, is a position that also is not purely about speed a lot of times. But in terms of Tyreke Hill, his game is pretty much speed. His number one weapon is and always will be speed. And I don't think that anybody really would argue against that. I mean, even my Chiefs fans that I'm sure will watch this video, even you guys would probably agree he's not the best route runner in the world. He doesn't have the best hands. He doesn't have the best technique in the world. It doesn't look pretty all the time when he plays, although when he does run, it is pretty. I'll give you that. He may be the fastest player to ever play in the NFL. And there have been some absolute speed demons. CJ2K back for the Titans in the early and mid 2000s, also the 2010s as well. You got previously mentioned Bob Hayes, Darrell Green, Bo Jackson. You've got a lot of guys that have been very fast, and Tyreke Hill may very well be faster than all of them, which is pretty crazy to say. But if your number one weapon is speed, what happens when you lose a step? Are you going to be as effective as you were when you were running a 4.2 40? No, probably not. He's not a great route runner, although, again, he has improved in that area over time. And he doesn't have the best hands, although he has, again, improved in that area over time. And because he relies so much on his athleticism, I wouldn't be surprised if injuries start to hit him a little bit harder in his 30s than maybe somebody else. Or I should say, or maybe it would hit somebody else. So with this trade, I feel like that the owner of the Miami Dolphins has told his team that we need to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. Because after that, after 2 years, you are really gambling on that Tyreke Hill contract. Now, I'm not saying that am I saying that Tyreke Hill is going to fall off a cliff at 30 and be terrible? No, of course not. I highly doubt that he will just completely fall off of a cliff at 30, or fall off a cliff at 30, excuse me. This isn't Madden, right? Madden thinks that as soon as you turn 30, you stink at football, and, if you're a 96 overall at 30 years old, all of a sudden you're going to be a 91, and then you're 31 years old and you're going to be an 83. That's not how real life works. There's plenty of guys in the NFL that have been very effective into their 30s, and even the last few years, guys that have been incredibly effective into their 40s. A la Tom Brady, of course, and even Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be turning 40 soon as well. Guys like Drew Brees, guys like Peyton Manning. There's been plenty of people that have been effective into their 30s and 40s. So am I saying that Tyreke Hill is going to fall off a cliff at 30? No, of course I'm not. But what I am saying is that a player that is of the style of Tyreke Hill is more prone to not necessarily fall off a cliff, but to decline more rapidly than somebody like a Davante Adams would, who definitely does not rely on his speed and athleticism to be effective. He relies on technique, he relies on his hands, and both of those things will only probably get better as he ages. Hands maybe not, but certainly technique will get better as he gets more and more experience in the NFL and more experience against every kind of defense that you can think of. Those are the things that you need when you age to be effective. And Tyreke Hill just doesn't have quite that much ability in those areas yet. Am I saying he can't develop that? No. I doubt that he would develop into a top shelf technical route runner at this point, considering he's been in the NFL for 6 or 7 years at this point, and he hasn't really developed that game a ton. He has developed, he's improved, certainly, in that area for sure, but I don't think that he's ever going to be that top of the line technical route runner. And up to this point in his career, he hasn't needed to be. But when he ages, if he loses a step, he might need to be. And on top of all of this, there are problems with the rest of the Dolphins roster. as we speak today. The defense is on the rise, yes, but it is still young and full of holes, quite frankly. The offensive line did get better with the additions of Teron Armstead and Connor Williams, but I think it still certainly needs some improvement and some work. The running game still needs upgrades beyond Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert. I don't necessarily trust those guys to be your workhorse back. Both those guys are fast, and both those guys had decent years last year, but I'm just not really sure that either of those guys are your long-term answer. You did already sign Cedric Wilson and franchise tag Mike Gesicki, so the amount of money that's going into the offense and the weapons around, the rest of the Dolphins is it's pretty significant. So you've got some pretty good pieces. You also do pair up Tyreke Hill with Jalen Waddle, who I absolutely love, and he's a speedster in and of himself who proved last year that he didn't need speed to be effective. Catching over 100 balls for over 1,000 yards, and he averaged 9.8 yards per catch, which admittedly is pretty low. And also Devontae Parker, another deep threat whose yards per carry declined by over a yard from his career average last year. This isn't good. You've got two deep threats, two speedsters in Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle, and both of their yards per catch are very low, especially Jalen Waddle's, who ran crazy fast at Alabama and proved to be a huge deep threat at Alabama. So, wide receivers that are playing for the Dolphins seem to have their yards per carry shrink from their usual selves. So, why is this? Why is that happening? Well, here it comes, my Dolphins fans that are watching. Here is your second trigger warning. It's coming. So, if you are easily offended by criticism of your team, here it comes. It's Tua. It's Tua Tagovailoa. That is the reason why your wide receivers' yards per catch are not good. The quarterback of the Dolphins has shown absolutely no ability to throw the ball deep since entering the NFL. And I mean absolutely no ability to throw the ball deep. He did it at times in college, so I do feel like at least at one point he was capable, and maybe still is capable, of throwing the deep ball. But Jalen Waddle is one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL, and he could not go deep because he wouldn't get the ball. Because it seemed like Tua literally couldn't get the ball that far. I watched a few Dolphins games this year, and I saw repeatedly, name a wide receiver that was on the Dolphins. It was Jalen Waddle or, Mike Gesicki or Devontae Parker or, Preston Williams. Name one. Doesn't matter. They would run some kind of a, 15, 20-yard out route, on the wide hash, the other side of the field. And they'd be open. They'd have about 3 yards of separation, which is pretty good in the NFL. They'd run that route great. And Tua would try and deliver the ball, and he would hop the ball to the receivers, sometimes twice. Like, sometimes the ball would skip like a rock to the wide receiver on a 15-yard out route. Now, am I saying that a 15-yard out route is a super easy throw to make? I don't know. I'm not sure I could make that throw, especially with the way my shoulder is. But I know I used to be able to make that throw with pretty relative ease, quite honestly. And for an NFL quarterback, you've got to be able to make those throws. You've got to be able to complete the out routes, because those are big money plays right there. And out routes, I think, are a really good determining factor in showing how good somebody's arm actually is. That's why we knew Andrew Luck was going to be special. Well, at least one of the reasons why we knew Andrew Luck was going to be special. He's coming out of the draft, because he was throwing out routes like they were nothing. And that's another reason why I loved Jake Fromm coming out of Georgia. is because he threw a lot of out routes at Georgia, and he threw them well. And I genuinely think that Jake Fromm should get a chance to play more in the NFL, but that's beside the point. So he meaning Tua, obviously getting back to that, has an abundance of deep threat weapons, and Tyler Lopes, of course, just some guy on YouTube, would make the argument that he cannot get the ball to them. Which, at that point, you say, what good is all those weapons then? What's the point of having all of those guys around you if you can't get the ball to them? I don't think the Dolphins have a good enough team to win the Super Bowl over the next 2 years. I don't think Tua is the right QB for this team given the rest of the personnel, and so ultimately, I don't think Tyreek Hill's contract is worth it for the Dolphins if he cannot use his skill set to go deep and get the ball downfield consistently. So, whether it's his fault by kind of, running into a wall at 30, losing a step and not being as effective as he once was, or whether it's somebody else's fault, namely Tua or another quarterback or whatever, not being able to get him the ball consistently, I think that his contract will not be worth it by the end of it. And I don't think he'll last the full length of his contract in Miami. I really don't. But I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comment section below.
Hey guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them, and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby, so I really want this thing to grow, and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.